Emma sat at the corner table of the cafe. Copyright, her hands tightly wrapped around the warm cup in front of her. It was just a simple black coffee and nothing fancier, but it was all she could afford with the crumpled $5 bill she had tucked into her purse. She smoothed down her old but neatly pressed dress, wishing it looked a little newer, a little more glamorous, something that might make her appear more confident than she felt. When her blind date finally arrived, her heart gave a hopeful flutter. Maybe tonight could be different. Maybe she would meet someone who could see beyond her circumstances. But as he pulled out the chair opposite her, she caught the faint curl of his lip. His eyes flicked from her worn dress to the plain cup of coffee and then back to her face with thinly veiled disappointment. "That's all you're having?" he asked, his voice dripping with condescension. "Just coffee?" He leaned back, pulling out his phone, scrolling without even giving her the courtesy of eye contact. Emma forced a polite smile. "Yes, yeah, broken bar, I'm not really that hungry." Her voice was soft, almost apologetic, as if she had to justify the only thing she could afford. Inside, her stomach knotted, not just from hunger but from humiliation. The cafe copyright felt suddenly too bright, too exposing. Every laugh from another table seemed to echo her embarrassment. She tried to engage him in conversation, but his replies were curt, distracted. Finally, he muttered something about being busy and glanced at the door, already impatient to leave. Emma stared down at her cup, willing the tears not to come. She wanted to disappear, to shrink into the chair and hide. She had built up so much hope for tonight, but it was crumbling, piece by piece, with every dismissive glance from across the table. And yet, as she fought to keep her composure, she had no idea that just a few feet away, a pair of watchful eyes were quietly following every moment. At the table just behind her, Daniel pretended to glance over the menu, though in truth his attention never strayed far from the young woman sitting alone with her coffee. His little daughter sat beside him, humming softly as she colored in her picture of a house and a sun, completely unaware of the storm of emotions her father was feeling. Daniel had noticed her the moment she walked in, nervous, hopeful, carrying herself with the kind of quiet dignity that only comes from struggle. He recognized it instantly because he had once lived it himself. The way she clutched her cup, as though it were her anchor. The way her shoulders sank under the weight of the man's cruel words. It struck something deep inside him. His jaw tightened when he heard the man's tone. Cold, dismissive, mocking. He hated men like that, men who measured worth by appearance, who thought kindness was optional. Daniel wasn't just a CEO in an expensive suit. He was a father who wanted his daughter to grow up in a world where people were valued for who they were, not for what they owned. "Daddy," his daughter whispered, tugging at his sleeve. "That girl looks sad." Daniel looked at his little girl, her innocent eyes full of concern, and then back at Emma. She sat still, pretending to be busy on her phone, but he could see the faint shine of unshed tears in her eyes. It made his chest ache. When her date finally stood, muttered something, and walked out without a backward glance, Daniel felt anger rise in him. But more than that, he felt an overwhelming urge to step in to make sure this moment didn't define her night, or worse, her belief in herself. He couldn't explain it, but he knew he couldn't stay seated much longer. He watched Emma lift her cup to her lips, her hand trembling just enough for him to notice. And that was when Daniel made his decision. He wouldn't let her sit in silence, thinking she was invisible. Daniel rose from his chair, his daughter's curious eyes following him as he crossed the small distance between their tables. Emma, lost in her thoughts, didn't notice him until his shadow fell across her. She looked up quickly, startled, half expecting to see her date returning with another insult on his lips. Instead, she found a man with kind eyes, calm but firm, standing before her with a gentle smile. "Excuse me," he began softly, his voice low and steady. "I don't mean to intrude, but I couldn't help noticing what just happened. No one should ever make you feel less than you are." Emma blinked, stunned by the unexpected kindness from a stranger. For a moment, she couldn't find her voice. Her instinct was to shake her head, to deny her embarrassment, to pretend she was fine. But there was something in his gaze, something steady and honest, that made her shoulders relax ever so slightly. Before she could respond, a small voice piped up from behind him. "Hi." Daniel's daughter leaned over the edge of her chair, holding up her crayon-streaked paper. "Do you want to draw with me?" Emma let out a shaky laugh, the first genuine sound she'd made all evening. "Oh, a broken bar, that's beautiful," she said, her voice catching on the edges of her smile. She glanced at Daniel, who only shrugged lightly, as though to say, she always gets what she wants. "Would you a broken bar join us?" Daniel asked gently. "Only if you'd like." "No pressure." Emma hesitated, her mind racing. She didn't want to impose. She didn't want pity. But as she looked at the little girl's hopeful grin and the father's patient gaze, she felt a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. Slowly, she gathered her cup and moved to their table. The waiter appeared, and before Emma could protest, Daniel ordered dinner for the three of them, not with extravagance, not to flaunt wealth, but with the ease of a man who simply wanted someone else to feel at home. Emma tried to object, but Daniel stopped her with a quiet shake of his head. "It's not about money," he said softly. "It's about company." As plates arrived and laughter bubbled from the little girl, Emma found herself talking about small things, about life, about dreams she hadn't dared voice aloud in years. And Daniel listened, not as a man with power or status, but as someone who understood what it meant to start from nothing. By the end of the evening, Emma realized something she never expected when she walked into that cafe. Copyright with only $5 and a fragile hope. She thought she had lost everything that night, her confidence, her dignity, her chance at happiness. But instead, she had been seen, truly seen. And sometimes, fate doesn't send you the person you expect across the table on a blind date. A broken bar, it sends you the stranger at the next one, waiting to change your life.